Dun, 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 dun. Okay, that song is going to be freaking stuck in my head all day. What up, my name is, and welcome back to NimTV. I'm your host, NimTV2299, and we're back with another movie review. This time, we're not reviewing a new movie. We are reviewing a movie from 2012 called The Avengers. Why am I reviewing The Avengers now? Because, well, it's pretty obvious why I'm reviewing it, because Avengers Infinity War is coming out. So, in preparation, I decided I would review the first Avengers movie, and then I will review Avengers Age of Ultron, and then I will review Infinity War when it actually comes out, which is like the next weekend or whatever it is. So yes, in preparation for that, I'm reviewing the previous two Avengers movies. I was thinking about going through and reviewing all the MCU movies I haven't reviewed yet in preparation, but that was just too much to handle. Eventually, I will get to actually doing that really far in the future, probably, who knows. But so I thought, I'll start just doing these two Avengers movies. So this one and then Age of Ultron. That's what we're going to do. Let's get started. So I just watched The Avengers for the first time in a while, actually. I've seen it multiple times, but this is the first time I've actually seen it in quite a while. And despite the fact that this movie only came out in 2012, it is still, I think, considered to be basically a classic now, even though, again, it only came out like 6 years ago, and it's already basically considered a classic. That's how much I love this movie. I mean, like, the movie itself, it doesn't seem to be anything special in terms of, like, the plot. It's not anything groundbreaking. The only thing that's really new or groundbreaking in this movie is the idea of, we're bringing all these characters from other movies on for one big superhero team. That's something that really hasn't been done on this scale before. And so in that way, I guess it's sort of groundbreaking, but that's about it. That's, like, if you like the characters from the other movies, you're gonna get them in this movie, and it's gonna be fun. So that's what I would say. This movie is pure just fun. But there's just something about it that's just so special, I think. There's just, first off, all the actors give their, like, best performances. They're all perfect. Robert Downey Jr. is probably the standout. Obviously, everyone, loves him as Tony Stark. But the others do great jobs as well. They're all perfect. All the characters. The writing, Joss Whedon really handles the whole, character dynamic thing really well and perfectly. It's like, hey, let's take this really diverse cast of characters in terms of, like, what time period they lived in, like Captain America, you lived back then, what they're good at, and, like, where they live, frickin' Thor lives, in Asgard, so it's like, you take these characters with all these completely different backgrounds and everything, put them together to try to form a team. What do you get? Well, you get a lot of arguments, a lot of fighting amongst themselves and not being able to work together. And that is sort of the overall theme of this movie, is kind of working together as a team. And there's that big moment at the end where they're, like, all in that famous group shot. And that's, like, the big moment of, like, we're a team now, and it starts playing the music, the dun 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 dun, and it's like, yeah, they're a big team now, and it just pumps you up, and I always leave this movie, every time I watch this movie, I've always left it happy, like, yeah, they're awesome, the Avengers have united, and yeah, after this whole movie of them struggling to work together and being torn down by Loki, trying to get them to fight amongst themselves, they finally come together as a team and take out the bad guys. It's not a very complex story, but it doesn't need to be, and that's what I love about this movie. It doesn't focus on being overly complex and trying to set up future movies and all that. I mean, there might be references to future movies that you might not be able to pick up on unless you've seen some of those future movies, but there's nothing that's like, we're going out of our way to set up future movies. Now, when we review Age of Ultron, there's a bit of a different story with that movie. But this movie doesn't. This movie focuses 100% on this specific movie. And yes, it's kind of designed in a way where you're much better off having seen the previous movies, the ones that set up each individual character before watching this, but I don't think you really have to. I mean, it's nice to get a character background, so once you're in this movie, you already know the characters, so then you can just kind of let them mix and see what kind of interesting things you can get out of that. But I think you could watch this movie without seeing the previous ones and still get a decently enjoyable experience out of it. But yeah, so by far the big, pull from this movie, the big thing, the appeal of this movie is the novelty of seeing these characters that we've seen before in other movies, that we love, just coming together. Struggling to do so that when you get to that climactic moment, it's like they've been struggling to come together as a team throughout the whole movie, so once you get to that climactic moment where they're finally working together as a team, it's like just so satisfying. It's like every time I watch this, it's so satisfying, that group shot and the music, and you're just like, Avengers have assembled finally, and it's great. I love it. Next movie, we'll get into that a little bit when we talk about that, but this movie does that so well, and I love it for that. There's not a lot more to say about it other than that. It's really fun. A lot of the fun, quippy dialogue. Another thing that I like about this is it does the whole, there's quips and stuff like that a lot of all the movies are trying to do now, even with something like Justice League, they tried to do that whole thing where, all the characters are saying jokes. But I think the difference is that in this, there's an understanding of, yes, all the characters are kind of saying jokes, but there's a certain understanding of what type of jokes each character would have. Each character still, the comedy that you get out of their dialogue comes from their personalities that's already been set up in the other movies and who that character is. There's certain, every time Tony Stark says a funny line, you're like, oh, that sounds exactly like something Tony Stark would say. When Steve Rogers says a funny line, you're like, oh, that sounds exactly like something Steve Rogers would say. So it all fits in with their characters. There's a really good understanding of who the characters are, what types of things they would say, and you get some really good moments out of it. One of my favorite moments, actually, is when the scepter is in there and it, is sort of almost, not mind controlling them, but, causing them to be more angry with each other, and they're, starting to argue and stuff, and Loki's there haha, it's working, and I don't know, there's just something about it. And then, again, each one is arguing in a way that seems to fit their character perfectly. Great moment. So yeah, I've pretty much been praising this movie since this review started, so is there any negatives I can think of? I mean, there are some slow moments, especially in the beginning. You get, but the beginning scene, which sets the plot in motion, that the scene where Loki first comes in and steals the Tesseract and whatever, that scene's kind of okay, it's this is the scene you need to set up the movie, yeah. But it's kind of whatever. It's the inciting incident. It does its job. That's about it. But it's the scene where all the characters are together and them going to each character, trying to get them to come together. The scene where Fury goes to Captain America, or the scene where Coulson goes to bring Iron Man in, or the scene where Black Widow goes to bring Bruce Banner in. Those scenes were great, and then when they actually do come together, and then when Thor comes in and they fight him, and then just basically every character interaction you get is really just awesome and perfect, and that's what I have to say. One negative, though, Hawkeye was a bit underused, because he's kind of just mind-controlled throughout basically all the movie. So he's not there during the scenes where they're kind of working things out and trying to work together as a team throughout most of the movie. So when he's there or as part of the team at the end, it kind of feels unearned almost. That's really one of the biggest issues I have with it. Other than that, I love this movie. It's basically a classic at this point. it's sort of a big historical movie too, because it is one of the first movies that has done this whole superhero team up thing on this big of a scale in the past before, probably the biggest one. So it is a very, historical movie. So there's that. But yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. You've probably seen the movie already. You probably already know if you like it or not. A lot of people do. I mean, there's probably people who don't. But people who don't like this movie just don't like fun. That's kind of my theory, is like, come on. No, it's fine if you don't like it. But yeah, so that's really all I have to say about it. Let me know in the comments, what do you think of this movie? And also let me know in the comments if you're excited for Infinity War. What are your expectations for it, and do you think it's going to be good? Do you think it's going to be not good? I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be good or not. We'll find out and see. Do you think this movie that I'm reviewing now is good or not? Let me know in the comments too. Anyways, I love this movie. You probably do too. Maybe you don't. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. Goodbye. I spoil loyal fans, I foil your plans and leave fluids leaking like oil pans. My coiled hands around this microphone are lethal. One thought in my cerebral is deeper than a jeep full of people. MCs are feeble, I came to cause some pandemonium. Battle a band of phony MCs, a stand lonely one. Imitator, intimidator, stimulator, simulator of data, eliminator. There's never been a greater. Since the burial of Jesus,